So when I began, I was a rheumatology fellow in Henry Kunkle's lab in 1982, and I had started in July and went to the 1982 meeting in San Antonio and didn't have an abstract to present, but went, and it was my first experience with a large scientific meeting, and so that sort of where it started. And then I've been to the annual meetings without missing any, and I guess in the last 25 years. I've done some work with committees in the ACR. I do some work with anti-nuclear antibodies with the ACR. I've done some work on abstract selection committees. I guess that was probably my favorite experience in the ACR, was being chairman of one of the abstract selection committees and having a chance to help decide what would be on the program for a meeting like this. Yeah, it probably meant more to me than most. I suppose it means a lot to everybody, but I was in Henry Kunkle's laboratory. I was actually Henry Kunkle's last fellow, so he died about a year and a half into my postdoctoral fellowship, and it was quite a shock. And so this award was named in his honor, and so it meant a great deal to me to be selected to receive this award for my research, and I felt that Henry Kunkle would have been smiling that day if he had been around for the occasion. Yeah, so the first annual meeting, I was sort of like a deer in headlights. It's not something they teach you in medical school, to go to large meetings like this. And in those days, the meeting wasn't so big. Probably no more than a couple thousand people there. It was everything was a learning experience at that point, because I didn't know anything about anything, and so it was probably one of the best learning experiences I've ever had in that first meeting. And then I think it's just gotten better since then. I think partly because I've gotten to know more and more people both in the research community and in the clinical community, and so you develop this group of friends that you see every year, once a year at the ACR meeting, and so it means a lot more, because in addition to what you hear in the sessions and the meetings, you hear maybe even more from these contacts that you make around the world. And so I guess that's really how it has changed for me over the years, as I got to know more people. It's nice to hear where their research is going each year. It's a chance for me to see people that are doing clinical work that I haven't seen in many years, and to hear how they're treating patients differently than we are. And so it's a great experience, both from a clinical aspect and also from a research standpoint. So scientifically, I think we're probably right now at the most exciting point in my career in rheumatology. So when I first started out, I work on lupus, and we really didn't have a very good idea what was involved in causing the disease. And now, for the first time, I believe we're just on the cusp of figuring out some of the major mechanisms involved in causing the disease, and potentially learning how to deal with those mechanisms. So it's a tremendously exciting period in lupus research right now. I feel sort of the equivalent of what happened in rheumatoid arthritis maybe 8-10 years ago. So it's every day there's something new in the journals. The meeting has a lot of exciting new data. There's a session going on right now that presenting some of the first work with interferon antagonists appearing to be successful in lupus. So there's a tremendous excitement, I think, in lupus, that we're finally beginning to understand a little bit about what's going on. And I think over the next few years that will explode even farther. So that's what I look forward to in my next 25 years. Yeah, so it's a problem in the academic setting. I guess I'll come back to the academic setting, but in the rheumatology in general, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of applicants to our rheumatology training program. A number of years ago, we were lucky if we got 10 applicants. Now we have 85. So I think partly that's because of this sense of excitement that I'm talking about, because these new understanding in the area of immunology and molecular biology of these diseases is leading to new treatments, and there are all the new biologicals that are coming out. And I think that captures the imagination of thoughtful trainees in internal medicine programs, and I think they're applying for rheumatology fellowships in ever larger numbers. So in a sense, if we can get the funding to train these individuals, the problem could solve itself, because I don't see this, the development of these new tools for treating patients slowing down, and at least in the next 10 years. In terms of academics, it's a larger problem. So the problem in academics is something that largely is outside of the American College of Rheumatology, and I think it boils down to the stability of grant funding. And so young people come out of training, they may be interested in investigation, but they look at the 10% pay line that the NIH has right now, and of course it's harder on the first-time investigators than it is on the more established investigators. And they often decide they just don't want to do that. And we've also had the experience of somebody who was a young investigator, was embarked on a career in clinical research, had a K08 award, which is a career development award from the NIH, but had trouble converting it to an R01, which is the standard kind of research grant, and just got frustrated with the whole thing and left the university and went into pharmaceutical research. So I think the biggest problem that we face right now is with these young investigators that are making the transition from postdoctoral fellows into junior faculty. We need to be sure that we can give them a stable funding, not 25% funded one year and 8% the next year. We need a stable value, I think, and I think we need to encourage these individuals to go along that track and do everything that we can to promote their careers. I think this is absolutely essential for rheumatology, but it's not just rheumatology. It's every other field as well. We run the risk, I think, of having a two-tiered biomedical structure in this country, where the physicians are treating patients and the research is being done by PhDs, and there's nobody to really translate the basic knowledge into clinical knowledge. So I think that's a tremendous challenge for rheumatology and every other field of medicine right now. I think the biggest thing, both professionally and personally, they're sort of intermingled, is this network of people that you begin to know. And so when you start out as a fellow, you don't know anybody except your mentor, and then you gradually get to know people from around the country and eventually from around the world. And the nice thing is that you can see all these people. It's like homecoming week at a football game. You're probably familiar with that at Florida. The ACR meeting is sort of like homecoming week for science and medicine. That you get to see these people who you've gotten to know over the years, exchange ideas, get advice on how to treat patients, get advice on scientific experiments, find out what other people are thinking, and tell them about what you're thinking. And I think that's the biggest thing that the ACR has done. It sort of helps you to create a network of people that are really lifelong friends. And because the meeting now is so international, this extends beyond the borders of the United States now, really all over the world.